Hi, thank you for joining me. This is A Consistency of Purpose by Jason Gray. 6/29/2026, 6026 Analusis, 8:59 GMT -6, location, off-grid, Starlink mobile upload. And then there are some GPS coordinates. There are truths so simple that they become invisible, not because they are hidden, but because they are dismissed, overlooked, stepped over in the endless search for something more complex, more dramatic, and more worthy of attention. The secret of success is a consistency of purpose. At first glance, it sounds almost disappointing. Too clean, too obvious, too lacking in mystery. It does not promise transformation overnight. It does not hint at hidden knowledge reserved for the few. It does not suggest that success is a code waiting to be cracked or a door waiting to be discovered. It offers no drama, and because of that, most people never truly examine it. The addiction to the extraordinary. Human beings are drawn to moments, the breakthrough, the miracle, the turning point, the instant everything changes. Humans are conditioned by stories, by media, and by culture to believe that success is something that happens, a moment where everything aligns, a moment where effort is rewarded, a moment where life finally reveals its hand. What if that entire idea is backwards? What if success is not a moment at all, but a direction sustained long enough to become irreversible? The illusion of sudden success. Look closely at anyone the world calls successful: an author, an athlete, a business owner, a craftsman, a parent who raised their children with care and presence, a person who rebuilt their life after collapse. From the outside, their story often appears compressed. It looks like they tried, they struggled, then something clicked, then they succeeded. Compression is an illusion created by distance. What is hidden inside that then is often years, sometimes decades of quiet, repeated effort. Days where nothing happened. Days where doubt was louder than belief. Days where the outcome looked exactly the same as failure, and yet they continued. Not because they were certain, not because they were always motivated, not because they were always strong, but because they remained aligned with something deeper than their current circumstances. Purpose is not what you think. Most people misunderstand purpose. They treat it like a feeling, something you wake up with, something that energizes you, something that makes everything clear. But purpose is not a feeling. Purpose is a decision about direction. It is the quiet, internal agreement you make with yourself about what matters enough to continue even when nothing reinforces it, even when it is inconvenient, even when it is uncomfortable, even when it appears to be going nowhere. Purpose does not require clarity at every step. It requires commitment beyond clarity. The discipline of direction. Imagine standing in an open field with no path, no markers, and no visible destination. You choose a direction. You begin walking. After a while, the terrain changes. You hit resistance. You begin to question whether you chose correctly. You look around. You see other people walking in different directions. Some appear to be moving faster. Some appear more confident. Some appear to have found something. This is where most people stop. Not because they are incapable, but because they mistake uncertainty for error. They assume that difficulty means they are on the wrong path, so they turn. They choose a new direction. They begin again and again and again. What they never realize is that every time they reset the only force that creates progress, continuity. Consistency. The force no one respects until it works. Consistency is not exciting. It does not feel powerful. It does not produce immediate results. It rarely produces visible results at all, at least in the beginning. It feels like repetition, like stagnation, like effort without reward. And that is precisely why it is so rare, because consistency requires something most people are unwilling to give: effort without immediate validation. The hidden mathematics of becoming. There is a form of mathematics operating beneath every human life, not numerical, not visible, but absolutely real. Every action you take reinforces something. Every repetition strengthens a pattern. Every decision builds identity. You do not become something in a moment. You become something through accumulation. One action repeated enough times becomes a habit. A habit repeated enough times becomes a trait. A trait repeated enough times becomes a character, and character, sustained long enough, becomes destiny. Not in a mystical sense, but in a structural one. Why most people never arrive. It is not because they lack intelligence. It is not because they lack opportunity. It is not because they lack ability. It is because they change direction too often. They are constantly restarting the process of becoming. They chase new ideas, new paths, new identities, new strategies, new inspirations, and every time they do, they abandon the compound effect of everything they have already built. Consistency is not just about effort. It is about refusing to abandon accumulation. The silence before results. There is a period in every meaningful pursuit where nothing appears to be happening. No recognition, no validation, no visible progress. This is the phase where most people quit, because the human mind is wired to seek feedback, to measure progress, to confirm that effort is working. When that feedback does not appear, the mind begins to resist. It begins to doubt. It begins to look for alternatives. But what if that silence is not absence? What if it is construction happening below the surface? Just because something is not visible does not mean it is not forming. Just because something has not emerged does not mean it is not becoming. The cost of purpose. Consistency of purpose is not free. It will cost you comfort, immediate gratification, approval from people who do not understand your direction, the illusion of quick success, the ability to constantly change your mind without consequence, but in exchange it gives you something far more valuable, trajectory. A life that is moving somewhere, a self that is becoming something, a direction that given enough time becomes unavoidable. The quiet reality. There is no secret moment, no hidden shortcut, no single event that transforms everything. There is only this, a direction chosen, a commitment made, a return enacted again and again and again, until one day, without fanfare, without announcement, without even a clear dividing line, you realize that what was once felt distant is now simply your life. That is where the real secret begins, because consistency of purpose does not just lead to success. It transforms the person walking the path, and once that transformation occurs, success is no longer something you chase. It becomes something you inevitably produce. The nature of purpose. Purpose is not passion. Passion fluctuates. It rises and falls with emotion, environment, and circumstance. Purpose does not. Purpose is what remains when passion disappears. It is what you return to when you are tired, discouraged, uncertain, or unseen. It is not loud. It does not demand attention. It simply waits for your decision to continue. Most people build their lives on passion. That is why they stop. Those who build their lives on purpose continue long enough to become something entirely different than what they started as. The war against distraction. The modern world is not built to support consistency. It is built to destroy it. Every notification, every trend, every opinion, every comparison, all of it pulls at your attention, and attention over time becomes direction. If you do not choose your direction deliberately, it will be chosen for you, fragmented across 1,000 distractions that lead nowhere. Purpose acts as a filter. Not everything deserves your time. Not everything deserves your energy. Not everything deserves your reaction. Consistency of purpose is not just about what you do. It is about what you refuse. The emotional reality of consistency. There will be days where continuing feels effortless. There will be days where continuing feels impossible. Both are irrelevant. Consistency is not emotional. It is structural. You do not move forward because you feel like it. You move forward because you decided to, and that decision, repeated over time, becomes something far more powerful than motivation. It becomes identity. You are no longer someone trying to do something. You are someone who does not stop. The role of failure. Failure is not a detour. It is a part of the path. Every meaningful direction includes missteps, wrong turns, losses, and moments where everything appears to collapse. The difference is not whether failure occurs. The difference is what happens next. Most people interpret failure as a signal to stop. Those aligned with purpose interpret failure as information. They adjust, they refine, they do not abandon direction. And because of that, what appears to be failure to others becomes momentum to them. The compounding effect of time. Time is the most underestimated force in success, not because it is scarce, but because it is misused. Consistency of purpose turns time into an ally. Every day builds on the last. Every effort reinforces the next. Every action compounds. Individually, the steps feel insignificant. Collectively, they become unstoppable. The person who shows up consistently for 5 years will outperform the person who shows up intensely for 5 months, not because they are more talented, but because they stayed the course. The transformation. At some point, something shifts. Not suddenly, not dramatically, quietly, subtly, irreversibly. You stop questioning whether it will work. You stop needing validation. You stop comparing your path to others because you are no longer trying to become something. You already are. The consistency has done its work. It has reshaped your thinking, your habits, your discipline, your identity, and from that identity, results begin to emerge, not as miracles, but as consequences. The truth about success. Success is not a destination you arrive at. It is a byproduct of alignment sustained over time. It is what happens when direction and action remain consistent long enough for reality to reorganize around them. It does not belong to the most gifted. It belongs to the most consistent, not the fastest, the most persistent, not the loudest, the most committed. The secret was never hidden. It was simply ignored, because it requires patience in a world addicted to speed. It requires a discipline in a world driven by impulse. It requires commitment in a world that constantly invites you to quit. But for those who accept it, for those who choose direction and remain with it, something extraordinary happens. Life begins to respond. Not all at once, not dramatically, steadily, reliably, inevitably. Then one day, without announcement, you look around and realize you did not stumble into success. You built it quietly, deliberately, one consistent step at a time. That is the secret. Jason Gray. And I 100% believe this to be true. I've heard others say it. I've heard it framed as, if there's something that you want to do with your life, then you start doing a little bit of that at least every single day, and you stay with it. Because the more you actually be it, the more you will eventually work your entire life into exactly what you wanted. So, this is wonderful. Thank you for this, Jason. Have a good day.